Imagine waking up one morning completely unaware that a small, seemingly insignificant bat bite from weeks earlier was slowly turning into a death sentence. For 15-year-old Gina Giese, this was the horrifying reality.
From what I've been told, I had, 1-2 hours left to live.
It has been 7 years since Gina Giese survived the unsurvivable. After being bitten by a bat, the Fond du Lac teenager became the only known person in the world to survive rabies without a vaccine.
In 2004, she became part of an extraordinary medical miracle that would defy science, challenge everything doctors thought they knew about one of the deadliest viruses known to humanity, and leave even the most hardened skeptics questioning if divine intervention played a role. It all started innocuously enough. A bat had flown into her church during a service. The small animal brushed against Gina, leaving a tiny bite on her finger. The bite healed quickly, and the incident was soon forgotten. But rabies had already begun its sinister work inside her body. Rabies is no ordinary virus. For centuries, it has been feared as one of the deadliest diseases on Earth. Transmitted through the saliva of infected animals, rabies quietly infiltrates the body, targeting the nervous system before launching its final, fatal attack on the brain. At first, Gina experienced mild symptoms that mimicked common illnesses: fatigue, muscle aches, and general malaise. But over time, her condition worsened. She developed difficulty swallowing, her mouth began to produce excess saliva, and she experienced severe confusion and hallucinations. It wasn't long before her parents realized that something was terribly wrong. They rushed her to the hospital, and after running a series of tests, doctors delivered the devastating news: Gina had rabies. The fact that Gina was still alive at this point was itself unusual. Rabies is one of the most lethal viruses in existence. Once symptoms begin to show, the virus has already started its final assault on the brain, attacking the central nervous system. At this stage, survival is considered impossible. In fact, rabies is so fatal that historically, less than a handful of people had ever survived after showing symptoms, and all had been vaccinated beforehand. Gina, however, had not received a vaccine, making her situation even more dire. Why is rabies so deadly, and why is survival without vaccination so improbable? To understand the gravity of Gina's case, it's essential to grasp how rabies operates within the human body. After being bitten by an infected animal, the rabies virus enters the body and begins its journey through the peripheral nerves toward the brain. The virus moves insidiously, traveling along nerve pathways, which protect it from the immune system. This is one of the reasons rabies is so deadly. It's nearly impossible for the body to detect and fight off the virus in these early stages. Once the rabies virus reaches the brain, it begins to cause encephalitis, or swelling of the brain. This inflammation leads to a cascade of severe neurological symptoms: agitation, paralysis, confusion, violent spasms, and hydrophobia, a fear of water, which is one of the most infamous symptoms. Eventually, the virus causes respiratory failure and cardiac arrest. At this point, the body's defenses are helpless, and death is inevitable. Rabies' path to the brain is slow, which is why post-exposure vaccination is effective if administered soon after the bite. The vaccine helps the immune system recognize and attack the virus before it reaches the brain. But once neurological symptoms appear, it's too late. The virus has effectively won. This is why Gina's case was so extraordinary. By the time she arrived at the hospital, the rabies virus had already reached her brain, and her symptoms were unmistakably severe. It should have been a death sentence. But doctors at Children's Hospital of Wisconsin, led by Dr. Rodney Willoughby, weren't ready to accept that fate. They decided to try an experimental treatment that had never been used to treat rabies in a human patient: the Milwaukee Protocol. It was a long shot. Rabies was virtually always fatal at this stage, but the doctors were determined to give Gina every chance they could. The Milwaukee Protocol involved placing Gina in a medically induced coma to protect her brain, while her body fought off the infection. The idea behind this was radical. By inducing a coma, doctors hoped to slow down Gina's brain activity enough to prevent the rabies virus from doing further damage. The hope was that this would buy time for her immune system to produce antibodies and fight the virus. In the meantime, antiviral medications would be administered to help her body combat the infection. But this was no easy task. The Milwaukee Protocol had never been attempted on a patient with rabies, and it was based more on theoretical science than proven results. The idea of freezing the virus in its tracks while the immune system caught up was audacious, and there were immense risks. Gina could suffer irreversible brain damage, or worse, her body could shut down completely. Gina was placed into a deep coma. Her vital signs were closely monitored as doctors adjusted medications, carefully keeping her brain function to the bare minimum needed for survival. Each passing day felt like a triumph, but the doctors knew they were still facing nearly impossible odds. The medical staff worked around the clock, pushing the boundaries of their expertise as they navigated this uncharted territory. Outside the hospital, Gina's family held onto their faith with unwavering strength. Her parents never left her side, praying constantly for a miracle. The local community rallied around them. Churches held vigils, prayer groups met daily, and even people who didn't know Gianna personally sent their support. The entire town, it seemed, was united in hope and prayer, believing that divine intervention might be the key to Gianna's survival. For weeks, Gianna remained in the coma, her fate uncertain. But then, something remarkable began to happen. Slowly, her vital signs started to improve. Her immune system appeared to be responding, generating the necessary antibodies to fight off the virus. The antiviral drugs were having an effect, and the virus was losing its grip. Gradually, against all odds, Gina's body began to fight back. After several tense weeks, doctors decided to bring Gianna out of the coma. They were cautiously optimistic, but they knew that the real test would come when she regained consciousness. Would her brain still be intact? Would she suffer from severe neurological damage? As Gianna slowly awoke, the medical team held their breath. The result was nothing short of miraculous. Gianna had not only survived rabies without a vaccine, something that had never been documented before, but she also emerged from the ordeal with no significant neurological impairments. This was unprecedented. In the entire history of medicine, no one had survived symptomatic rabies without vaccination, and yet here was Gina, defying all odds. News of her miraculous recovery spread like wildfire. Medical experts around the world were stunned by the outcome. The Milwaukee Protocol, an experimental treatment that had been considered a last-ditch effort, had worked, but there were still many questions. Why had Gina survived when so many others hadn't? Was it the protocol itself, or was there something unique about her immune response? Could her survival be attributed to her body's physiology, or had the power of prayer played a role? Researchers began studying Gianna's case in depth, hoping to unlock the secrets of her recovery. The Milwaukee Protocol became a new avenue for exploring treatments for rabies, though its success has been difficult to replicate in other patients. Some have survived, but others have not. Gianna's case remains one of the most remarkable and mysterious medical stories in recent history. For Gianna's family and community, however, the answer was clear. They believed that it wasn't just science that had saved her, it was a miracle. Their faith had sustained them through the darkest days of Gianna's illness, and they firmly believed that divine intervention had played a role in her recovery. Gianna's story is more than just a medical anomaly. It's a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of hope. Her survival against all odds serves as a beacon of possibility, showing that even in the face of the deadliest diseases, there is always a reason to fight. Today, Gianna lives a full and healthy life. Her experience has inspired countless people facing their own struggles, and her case continues to influence rabies research and treatment. While science continues to explore the mysteries of her survival, one thing is certain. Gianna Giesi's story is a powerful reminder that miracles, whether through science or faith, are still very much a part of our world.